Okay, it's live now.
Okay. Opening up the work session for October 5th, 2020 at 3:30. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hopkins, Commissioner Johnson,
Present.
Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Young. I see you, Commissioner Young, but I didn't hear you.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner
Present.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Present.
Commissioner Gage Watts, Commissioner
Present.
Taliaferro,
Here, sir.
Commissioner Atkins,
Here.
Commissioner Chavez, Commissioner Lazarus,
Here.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just to confirm, I did hear Commissioner Burrell, didn't I?
No, you should have heard Commissioner Watts.
I did get her. Yes, sorry. I must have. I thought I heard an echo, and I was like, I don't see Roy on here, but anyway. Okay, so that means you have, let's see, 4 absent and 8 present. You do have a quorum.
Okay. Next item is the invocation. Commissioner Taliaferro, if you would do that. And then following that would be the Pledge of Allegiance, which would be Commissioner Lazarus.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, we do love you. And because we do, we are so humbled to be able to come to you as servants of your people, your communities, our nation. And we ask your guidance, your wisdom to enable us to do the will of the people based on your godly principles. We ask blessings of those who could not be with us today and those less fortunate than ourselves. In your name we pray. Amen.
Yeah.
And please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next item.
Okay, that brings us to agenda additions. I'm not aware of any unless you are.
I don't have any.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion at this time that we move the executive session up on the agenda to after Visitor Mike Spence speaks, please. If I can get a second.
Okay.
Second.
I'll second that.
And the reason for that is in the event that something come out of the executive session before the end of the business day, staff would have an opportunity to convey what the decision was out of there.
Okay. We'll take that up as after we have our visitor. Citizen comments.
Yes, citizen comments. We have not received any electronically at this time. Would you like me to go ahead and give the phone number out in case anybody wants to call in?
Yes.
Great. That number is 318-226-6596. And if you'd like to give a few minutes for somebody to call in, we don't currently have any callers on the line.
Okay. We'll give 3 minutes. It's 3:36 right now, so 3:39. We don't have any. We'll keep going.
Looks like we just had a phone call come in, but it looks like they are not calling in for public comments. So, oh, I'm sorry. We may have another one that is calling in for public comments.
All right. I'd also like to welcome Commissioner Burrell. He has joined us.
Hello.
This nation's
We're on
is connecting the
citizen
call.
comments, Roy.
Okay, sir, go ahead and state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Garrett Michaels. I'm from Cedar Grove on the west side in Shreveport, Louisiana. Okay, I'm mainly concerned because there was a woman whose body was found in the LSU hospital, and it says that there's no signs of foul play, even though patients have been talking about or trying to report or petition the government for redress of grievance and not been allowed to, as far as the university officers that are torturing patients. I have it on documentation. I have it on record. Danny Walker, the university police captain, acknowledging the torture of patients. I can give you testimonies from other people, and we can apologize if we got to, but what Mayor Herkins is doing is he's essentially not allowing any of us to get help because he blocks us on social media. Okay, he blocks us on social media. Crystal, the administration threatens us whenever, and that's on record, all on record recording, and she threatens arrest for people when they try to get help from calling Mayor Herkins' office. Chief Hansen, he shown that he makes fun of victims to try to get help, and we need Herkins to contact the governor because the governor won't respond to any communications. There was a petition made for patients that are abused and tortured, and I'll testify and apologize if they're torturing elderly one. Officer gave the 6'2", black male, 250 pounds. Everybody knows. Anyways, there's this body of the hospital. Well, she was dead. Okay, found the officers. They didn't want to investigate the cameras. They didn't ask about the university police because you got to pass one to get through the door. She was been in the hospital about 3 days. Well, get raped and tortured. Then a couple days later, there was another woman who had to steal an emergency vehicle from officers to get away. So this is very serious, and y'all need to take this serious. We're going to go review. Go around the neighborhood and talk to people about LSU. They're hurting people. Okay? And this has to be done. Now, it's illegal for Perkins to block us, okay, on social media. It's illegal for them to threaten us with arrest. All of it's on documents. I need a real law-abiding law enforcement officer because Sheriff Prater just looks at the communications and you can see that he's in the Facebook Messenger and about the torture of patients, and he just stops communicating. Caddo Sheriff's Office blocks victims when they try to get help. Closure County Office blocks victims when they try to get help. This is all backed up to the cloud and spread throughout the internet. So there's no point in trying to deny it. I can provide some evidence to you, but there's a lot of patients that need to get help, and we need to do something about the university police officers that probably raped and tortured that woman who was found dead in LSU Hospital.
Mr. Michaels,
Yes, ma'am.
your time is up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day. That's all.
Thank that citizen for his call. Do we have any other?
We don't have any other calls holding at this time.
All right, next item.
That brings us to visitors. And we don't have any visitors under this section of the agenda, but we do have a visitor in a moment. Would you like me to move on to reports?
Yes.
The visitor we have is under reports. That's why I mentioned that. So
Okay.
under reports,
I had to look.
Sure thing. Yeah. The certificate of teleconference is attached here just for reference, no action required. And we're at the administrator's report.
Good afternoon, everybody. I believe we had a request from one of our commissioners, Commissioner Kenny Epperson, to invite Mr. Mike Spence, who's the clerk of the court, to come and talk to us about the upcoming November 3rd election and what some of the things being done to to ensure the safeguard of the community that will be entering at our polling locations. So he's here, and he can kind of fill us in on what the plans are towards the November 3rd date on the election, because this one will probably be pretty intense. So Mr. Mike Spence, thank you for coming today. I appreciate you being here, sir. At this time, would you please kind of let us know what the plans are to enhance the safeguard of things going on at the polling locations coming November 3rd?
All right, Dr. Wilson, how is everyone?
Fine, sir. Thank you.
What I'll do is just go over everything we're doing right now, and if anybody wants to stop and ask a question, you're welcome to do that. Our office meets daily, our election department. We are visiting locations now. We've started that this week after the appeal delays went on the judge's ruling. We're visiting each school and library and church and making sure that we can have 6 foot distancing for our voters, and we can have a line in and a line out so people aren't crossing. We've met with our school board, and they have been very accommodating. What we're doing now is making sure that we use multiple classrooms that have in and out instead of the small locations that have always been used in the past. We have talked with the school board. There's going to be no volleyball games or basketball games that day. They did have them on their schedule, so they've now canceled them. The only thing you'll see on campus, we agreed to let them practice football. We felt like they were going to be far enough away from the precinct that wouldn't bother. We are going to also send letters to the principals to make sure that we have no problems on election day as far as events. In the past, we end up getting to a precinct and they're having pancake breakfast or moving our precinct, so we're making sure that doesn't happen this time. To date, all the principals are accommodating us, and they've done a very good job for us. The library system has closed their libraries on that date that are precincts. We will be able to use the whole library instead of just the little office meeting rooms that have always been used in the past. All of this is being done not only for the 6 foot, but also so if it's raining, people won't have to wait in line in the rain. There will be precincts. There's nothing we can do about that. It's just the way they're designed or built. But we're doing the best we can, and the custodians are doing the best they can. We've been recruiting commissioners for the last 4 or 5 months. We have 14 billboards throughout the parish. As of today, we have 450 extra commissioners. In our last election, we had about 30. So we built our numbers back up. Tomorrow, October 6th at 10 o'clock, we draw the commissioners that will work the election. The Board of Election Supervisors will meet in my office. And we randomly draw the commissioners, and that's done by literally rolling die and then placing those numbers in a computer, and it randomly chooses the commissioners that work. The training of the commissioners will begin in the next week or two as far as the pre-election schools to go over their lockouts and make sure they understand the precincts. We are the only parish in the state that's going to do drive-through election schools. Commissioners can drive up to the different schools and libraries that we'll be at. We go to the cars, we instruct them, and then they drive off. They will not have to come to a location and sit in an auditorium or a classroom. As we get closer to the election, the steps that we're taking is that we are going to assign members of my office to follow the delivery trucks to make sure that the delivery trucks deliver the proper machines to the proper precincts. These gentlemen work for the Secretary of State, and to be honest, I want to make sure that when we open the polls at 6 o'clock, the right machines at the right precinct. What we're going to do is have a phone tree and remind the commissioners on election day on Friday that they have to be at the precincts at 5:30. We will also notify each custodian at each school, church, library, etc., that they have to be at the precinct at 5:30. The next morning at 5 o'clock, they're going to get a wake-up call from us to make sure that they're there at 5:30. These people don't work for us. They don't work for the commission. We just say a prayer and hope they all get up and get to the precincts on time. If for some instance a precinct doesn't open on time, commissioners are instructed to keep the people there or take their names. If a precinct's closed for too long, then we will get with the district attorney and the judges to extend the hours of that precinct. Beginning at 5 a.m. on election day, I'll have 8 employees manning the telephones for phone calls. Most of these phone calls are commissioners just needing help opening their precincts, but many times we get calls for people who want to know where they vote. And something for all the commissioners to know, there's an app that you can put on your phone. So if you're riding around that day, it's the Go Vote app, G-E-A-U-X Vote app. That's what we use to make sure that the voters know where to vote. That will be the bulk of our calls. It's just rollover calls from the lines being busy at the registrar due to the volume that they have. If any commissioner has any issues on election day, you all have my cell phone number. Feel free to call me. You can also call 226-6788. That is our election line where I'll have people here taking the phone calls. On election day, I'll have 8 deputy sheriffs spread over the parish to handle anything that comes up on that day. The Secretary of State allows Caddo Parish 4. We asked for 4 more and they agreed on it. RS 1840-431 prevents presence of law enforcement agencies at precincts. The only way a law enforcement agent can go to a precinct is if we get a call to go there. They will be rotating all through the parish, checking on precincts just to make sure everything's good. I will also have a deputy clerk of court at almost every precinct. We will also possibly be using some high school students. Carlos Prudhomme has a law class at Booker T. Washington, and we are waiting on the Secretary of State to approve for us to use his students. Loyola College Prep also has a law class, and we may use theirs if they are approved. So on election day, our normal problems are signs. That's what we chase down mostly. People not being on the voter poll rolls, and the registrar of voters will take care of all those issues. We'll also have a district attorney on call to handle any legal problems that may come up. So once we close the polls, during the day, the registrar, along with many of my deputy clerks, will be opening the mail-in votes at around 10 a.m. with a goal of being finished at 6. Mr. Sibley's being very aggressive on this, and it's going to work out very well, we believe. Each mail-in vote is 3 pages. So just round numbers, if 10,000 mail-in votes come in, we're going to have to scan 30,000 pages. But the scanners that we'll be sending over here are used to doing that on a daily basis in our office. So our goal is to have all the mail-in votes done by 6. At 8 a.m. when all the polls close, we can then tabulate the numbers, load them on a flash drive, and then bring them in and load them into the Secretary of State website. So we hope that that's all done promptly. And then usually the polls close at 8 and the commissioners have everything into us by about 9:30. Everyone can figure that it will be lines at all the precincts. The last person in line at 8 still gets to vote. And we are figuring they will be able to depart somewhere around 9 o'clock from their precincts. And we're hoping to have all the results in by 11 o'clock, about an hour later than normal. That's our goals. So does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, you got two commissioners on the board right now, Commissioner Epperson and then Commissioner Atkins.
Okay.
I want that, Mr. President. Okay, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming today. Would you describe the policy and the procedure for poll watchers and their duties and responsibilities?
All right. A poll watcher, usually the candidate has to submit a form to us by law, and that form lists the poll watchers. And then we have to verify that each poll watcher is a registered voter, and then we issue them a poll watcher certificate. Their duty on election day is to watch. They're not to interfere. They're not to talk to voters. They're not to talk to the. So their duty that day is just to watch. And those are brought to us by the candidates.
Okay. Is Louisiana, and this may be a question for Henry Bernstein or Ms. Frey if they're listening, is Louisiana a right to carry state? And if so, does an individual have the right to bring a firearm, be it long gun or a pistol, to a voting precinct?
The law strictly prohibits that. I do not have the RS code, but I have someone in here looking it up right now. But you cannot bring a weapon in, even a knife. We've had to ask people to leave because they had a knife. When I say we, that is the commissioners at the precincts.
Okay. And if there is some sort of altercation, I'm sure all the poll captains know where to call, and the law enforcement officials will come.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I'm going to have 8 rotating this time, so the speed that they will get there will be much quicker. I will also have deputy clerks there that will hopefully be able to de-escalate anything not like that.
Okay. And also aggressive workers around the poll in favor of candidates as far as signs, the proper distance from the polling locations. Sometimes it appears to be pretty aggressive. I noticed in last year's election, I had to call you off for several times. Let us make sure we put an emphasis on that, and so everything can be, respectful and decent and in order.
Yes,
so make sure that those parameters are marked and they are enforced as far as where people can come out and solicit or whatever and put signs.
Right.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for coming down today. We appreciate your time and your insights and your efforts as you approach this this very important election. A quick question for you. You made reference to the election line. Could you state that number again, please, and what its purpose is?
Election line.
You said you gave your personal telephone number, and then you made reference to an election telephone number.
That is the staff that's on duty in my office during the day. We have candidates call. That's 226-6788.
Okay.
They assist everyone. We have voters call. We have candidates call. We get a multitude of calls that day, and we're just here to accept them and help. We keep a log of every call that comes in, who calls, and what the issue is.
Okay, thank you, sir.
No problem.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Ken may have covered this because I did have a concern because based on some national news, I have heard our president threatening to have his supporters to monitor illegal voting. And I didn't know how serious that was, but I wanted to see what we would have in place because he did talk about having, possibly people carrying weapons that could be intimidating. Just as Commissioner Epperson said, I know we have our own laws, but it appears that our federal laws may, I don't know if it supersedes it or what, but in many cases where the state and local government has placed restrictions, our president, and it appeared that it happens. How do you understand my question?
Yes, sir. On election day, weapons are not allowed in precincts, period. That's the law. There's no federal law that will supersede that. Second, the commissioners are very astute to this. They know when there's a problem. They know to ask a person to leave. We haven't had any issues where a person wouldn't leave. We've never had anyone even try to bring a gun in. The only event I've seen in 42 years is a knife. Now, I do know this year is different, and that's why we added more deputies. And these deputies will have districts that they will be patrolling around. They will only go in the precincts when called or when we have them deliver items. That's kind of how we get around it a little bit is we have poll watchers lists. We have people who voted on mail-in at the last minute. We have them delivering those lists to the precincts. So they will be going in and out of precincts all day long.
Okay, as a follow-up, I know that the polling places basically have a certain boundary. And as you said before, we're possibly looking for lines of people going to the polling places. We have no jurisdiction, I assume, outside that precinct boundary to monitor or to engage people who try to intimidate. Again, Mike, this is a very unprecedented year. And I want to make sure that we caution on the side of the voters not being suppressed because of intimidation. I have that great concern, as a commissioner.
Yes, sir. And that is a lot of the reasons why we're going to the schools. This is unprecedented for us also. We're going to every school to make sure that the lines will be inside schools. And I feel from what we've seen now, all the schools have helped us with this. In the past, we've been very limited to what parts of schools we can use, and that hasn't been the case this year. And libraries were always an issue where people had to wait in line outside the library. This time they will be waiting inside the libraries.
One other question, and I'm finished, because I posed this question earlier, not among all the commissioners, but maybe you can help me with this. I do plan to follow it up, although I was given a reason, but I asked them whether or not it was a statute, and they couldn't tell me this. Can you cite a Louisiana statute or a statute, a deposit box, the voter register, a deposit box for mail-in or absentee ballot of people who are concerned about our postal service problem? Is there a statute against that, or is that just something that the Secretary of State can basically say that he doesn't want, or the legislature can say that they don't want?
I would believe that would be something with the legislature. I know nothing of that because the registrar handles the mail-ins. The clerk does assist them, but as far as mail-ins, all I know is that you can mail it in or take it to the registrar voter's office.
Okay, given the fact that you can take it to the registered voter's office, you're saying that you don't know of any statute that prohibit them from actually having a deposit box that will be secured outside?
Personally, I do not know, sir.
Okay. Woody, if you would check that for me, I would like to know that as a point of information.
All right, we will email the Secretary of State's legal department and see what they come out with.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Clerk, for being here today and bringing us up to date on the latest with the elections. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Commissioner Burrell was asking about the expected violence and is on election day that the Justice Department has announced. And I did not hear you if you said that sheriffs or constables or city marshals, policemen will be providing security at the polls that day?
By law, they cannot. There's a statute that prohibits law enforcement agencies to be at a precinct unless they are there on a daily basis for security of a private piece of property. But then we will have 8 deputies rotating around the parish, and I will have deputy clerks at about 80% of the precincts.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Yes. Commissioner Everson, your hand back up.
Yes, sir. If Mr. Spence was finished, I had with his portion. I had a question for Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Johnson, I just had one question for Mike Spence.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Spence, could you address the matter? Is it mandatory for persons entering the polling place to have personal protective equipment on, such as masks?
No, the law prohibits us from requiring a voter to do that.
So they can come in and out without a mask on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
we're going to ask people. I've just done a KTBS segment, and part of that was to ask voters to bring, to wear a mask and to bring their own personal pens to sign their name on the sheets.
Okay. And as to touching the electronic devices, you will be sanitizing it in between use?
They will be doing the best they can.
Okay.
There's 5 commissioners at each precinct.
Okay.
So they're going to try.
Okay. I mean, those were some concerns that I heard. That's what I wanted to bring it up to you.
Yes. In fact, on some of the machines last time they used alcohol, and it ended up drying up some of the covering that was on there.
Okay.
It wasn't designed for that.
Okay. All right. I too appreciate you being here, Mike. I appreciate the work that you do. I know it's a big job to handle and get it all done in one day with accuracy. So thank you for being here, and thank you for what you do for us.
No problem. And next week I'm going to Baton Rouge with the secretary, meet with the Secretary of State's office, all the clerks. So if I find out anything that's changed from what I've told y'all, I will notify you.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Dr. Wilson, are we going to have any masks available for polling places in case people want one but don't have them?
I believe.
And will we have any face shields available there in case people don't like masks but will consent to wear a face shield? Thanks.
Commissioner John Paul Young, we have a limited amount, certainly not amount to cover every precinct. So, but we do have some left over, and we would distribute what we have available. Perhaps it'll probably be a good idea to give it to the clerks since they cover all the polling locations.
That sounds good to me. And do we have time to buy a few more so that every polling place could have some? I realize most people will be wearing them probably, but if every polling place has a few, that might help. Thank you.
Okay, okay. We'll check it out.
I project on this. The Secretary of State provides each precinct with some.
All precincts or just some precincts?
All precincts. There's probably about 100 in their box.
Oh, each precinct?
Yes, and we have extras from last time, so they should have plenty at the precincts.
Okay, thanks.
That sounds good. Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Telefaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hey, Mike, for regarding the sanitation, it's going to be very difficult, I'm sure, at best, to keep those voting machines wiped down. I presume, I can only presume, since the safety precautions are being addressed, that there's going to be adequate hand sanitizer, which will take care of any germ spreading by the touching of any kind of a voting portion of the machines with anybody's hands. Correct?
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
that should be enough to satisfy everybody's needs.
They send gallons of it, and there's plenty
Right.
of sanitizer. And what I recommend is for people to use a pencil to vote. You just use the end of the pencils and touch your name. Probably work better anyway. They also have rolls of, it's not Clorox wipes, but they've created their own type of Clorox wipes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Commissioner Everson.
Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like for you to invite Registrar of Voters, Mr. Dale Sibley, to Thursday's meeting as a visitor.
Okay.
And secondly, I think some years back, and I'm assuming the lines are going to be quite long this year with us having only this one early voting site for early voting. And, we put chairs out, folding chairs for some of the older and people that may be affirmed. Also, I think we had a little water placed out, and I was hoping that we could do the same thing. And possibly if we could put a couple of portalets, maybe in an alleyway, somewhere leading up to the Registrar of Voters office where they vote.
Yes, sir.
Because the lines will probably be long, and I think that would be a nice, convenient, toward our citizens.
Okay. Okay, we got it, sir.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and I'd just like to state that my mail-in ballot was mailed from the Registrar of Voters office on September the 22nd. I received it on the 24th. I dropped it in the mail on the 25th at 12:40 p.m. and it was received in the Registrar of Voters office on September the 28th. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right.
Can I
Commissioner Burrell.
Just one other thing, observation, Mr. Chairman. When I was at in the legislature and we were dealing with DMV, we set up a separate line for many of our indigent, I would say indigent, many of our people who are, additional type of thing within our voting operation where they kind of get a priority rather than having to stand there. They are ushered over to a second line.
Commissioner, we would have to check. We have, I think, 2 or 3 slots in the front of the building for people that need to park handicap spots. Right, and I think I need to talk to Mr. Dale to see what's the protocol for someone moving ahead of someone else in the line. I'm not sure what that process is. We don't have anything to do with that, but it certainly will be up to the Registrar of Voters how he handles that situation. But we can get that question answered on Thursday if you like.
Well, I suggest we consider that because it worked well with the DMV and many of our seniors, especially those that were handicapped who needed to go to the DMV. They really appreciated it. So hopefully I mean, that's something that we could do for our seniors and those who are has disabilities. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. See no other. Now we're down to the motion that Commissioner Everson made to move the executive session up to this point. And I second it. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, could I interject real quickly? I think Mr. Spence may have had one more item he wanted to add, just if we could just give him a chance for that real quick.
Oh, I didn't see.
When, as far as people that are handicapped, they get to go on the front of the line at the registrar's office and at our office. And with the mail-in votes, part of this judge's ruling was that the registrar checks daily with the postmaster to make sure there are no envelopes laying around. It's pretty obvious what they are. It's pretty large. So they are to be always looking to make sure there's none sitting around. So they're trying all they can at the post office to make sure they push these through.
Okay. Okay, Mike, differentiation, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Just as a point of clarification, Mike, you were saying that you allow people with disadvantage, that are disabled, to go forward. That's great, but sometimes you have seniors that may not be so-called disabled, but they are seniors, like 70, 80, 90 years old that try to come. Do we make accommodations for those?
They walk if someone's with them and they go to where the commissioners see them, they'll help them. Our commissioners understand that very strongly.
Okay, thank you.
The average age of commissioners is probably 65 to 70.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're back down to the motion and the second about going into executive session, moving executive session up in our agenda. Are there any questions on that? Not seeing any. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hopkins, Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson. I believe I saw him.
Yeah, he's online. He just didn't answer yet.
Okay. Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yeah, yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yeah. Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts, Commissioner Talafero,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez, Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right.
That's yes. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. That gives us 9 in favor. I did not hear Commissioner Jackson's response. If he could let us know. Well, I'll mark him as absent for right now. So that gives us 3 absent and 9 in favor. That motion carries. And if I could at this point, let anybody know who's not. So as we go into executive session, there are those people who will put in the waiting room until that portion of the meeting wraps and we come back.
Okay.
But yeah, in order to do that, could you confirm, Attorney Frazier, could you confirm for us who needs to be in that executive session?
Sure.
All commissioners, staff, the administrator, assistant administrator, the attorney, the assistant attorney, and that's it.
Correct.
Great.
And the clerk.
Mr. Chairman, just a procedural question. Will we be ending recording and live coverage?
Yes.
What will happen is the live stream will, I believe, just show the waiting room, or we will either do that or discontinue it. Yeah, we'll discontinue it. That's the safest way. And then we'll pick back up on it when we get back. If you'll hold just a moment, we'll confirm when it's offline.